All right, Coach. I guess first of all, can you just kind of reflect on that Baylor series? I know you guys probably felt like you definitely needed to win it, which you did. I know you were hoping to sweep. Just looking back on that weekend, did you accomplish what you wanted to?
I mean, obviously you're trying to win every game you play, but you going into that series knowing you have to feeling like you have to win the series puts a little added pressure. But we're at the end of the year, so all the games are like that. Getting there, we probably could have just played three single games. Made a decision early in the day that the rain was going to be pretty bad, but we sat in a hotel about 8 o'clock and figured we could have been on the field. But to play that doubleheader, that might have been the hottest doubleheader I've ever experienced in my life. I think the sun was in our face for 7 hours in that dugout. Played pretty good the first game, made some mental mistakes the second game. But we had to make some decisions on how long we were either going to go with Vespi short or Stagliano short and just kind of let it present itself. Vespi was rolling. We had to win that first one. He won it. We're in a close one with the loaded bullpen and kind of kept Stag short so we could start him tomorrow and then found a way to win somehow Sunday. So
what went into your decision to start Dom, and how have you approached getting your pitching staff lined up for a tournament run?
yeah, we kept him the 50. Like he was going to be short anyway, just with the shorter week. He was short a day on Friday, so we kept him the 50 pitches so we could start him on Tuesday. That was the plan, and then push Vespi because he threw closer to 85. Push him to the next day because you have those two games. We had to figure out a way to set that up, and then Wiley pitched well enough. Dom only was at 50 pitches, so everybody should be available except for Vespi tomorrow.
Rich, most, if not all, the projections currently have you guys in the NCAA field as of today. But how much, of a sense of urgency is there in Arlington to at least get one or possibly two to solidify that?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really looked at that stuff. Just knowing in years past where we sit and what we do, we got to get something done here. Our goal is to win as many games as we possibly can here and stay here as long as possible. But you're at this point, you're just trying to win so you can take some decision making out of the process. The more you win, the easier it is to put you in.
And looking at you, a lot of the times the committees look at your last 10 games or so. You guys are one of the hotter teams in the conference towards the end of the year. Just how much momentum do you guys feel like you have going into this conference tournament as this postseason now is here?
Yeah, I think we've shown that we can play well and play well on the road and play well in the state of Texas. And I mean, we went from being at Houston to coming home and playing Texas and going back on the road here to Waco and then driving over here. We spent a lot of time in Texas or playing Texas the last month, and we're just looking to put our best foot forward here in the tournament.
You ended up drawing the Cincinnati, who took 2 or 3 from you in Orlando. What did you learn from that series that you're hoping the team can apply when they face the Bearcats tomorrow?
No, I think we're two evenly matched teams. That's a well-coached, talented group, and when we play the way we need to play, we have a shot to beat them. And if we don't, they're gonna hand it to us just like they did in Orlando. Like all those games could have went either way. For us, they could have swept us. We could have swept them. They won the series. We could have won the series. There's little moments in the game when you're playing a well-coached, talented team like Cincinnati that you got to take care of, or else. And I'm hoping to do that.
Cincinnati, they announced they're going to pitch Nathan Taylor. Believe he was a Saturday pitcher against you guys. He pitched well into the 7th inning, only gave up, I think, 2 earned runs in that game. What do you remember about his outing and how he fared against your batters?
Yeah, explosive fastball. I mean, he used the fastball up and out of the zone against us. The slider was working that night. It's basically the same matchup. I think it's Dom versus Taylor again, and we're gonna have to figure out a way to kind of get to him a little earlier, hopefully, than we did last time. There's things in there when you're facing a good young arm like that you have to hone in on, or he's gonna be tough to deal with for the whole night. We're looking for a little bit better at bats against him.
Projections show that Cincinnati list is one of the last four out. Considering the question that you talked about before about UCF's projections into the tournament as well, with postseason stakes on the line like this, how do you kind of go into a matchup like this and kind of be able to treat it like any other game?
Yeah, I think that's all we have to do, right? Like we got one of our better starting pitchers on the mound. The bullpen's ready to roll. To me, it's like the first game of a series. You're going to do everything you can to try to win this game and put your best foot forward and try not to get locked in on those projections because I've never seen them actually be right on both sides of it. So
You've talked about your margins throughout these Big 12 series. Your defense let you down a little bit over the weekend. How important is it for everybody to be focused and sharp for a tournament of this run?
Yeah, and I mean, we have to play defense to the level of our capabilities, and we have to be able to create some things on offense. Like you can just left that place; it's enormous. The infield's fast. It's turf to dirt. It's as big as park as you could ever imagine. I mean, I coached 100 and something games at Charles Schwab Field where we play the World Series, and everybody talks about how big that field is. This one's bigger. So we got to figure out ways to score and play defense, and outs will be at a premium.
In
Speaking
respect to
with
the
the player-
field and the stadium you're going to play in, how did the guys react? I know you had batting practice in there a couple hours ago. What was your reaction when they walk in there and realize they're going to play in probably one of the nicest MLB ballparks?
Yeah, it's exactly what you thought it would be, Brandon. Like the excitement and the big eyes, like it's pretty neat. Like if you can't walk through the tunnel of that place out to the field and your heart doesn't start bumping a little faster than usual, then you're probably not alive. Like these kids deserve this opportunity, and hopefully they're going to take advantage of it.
Speaking
much
of
of an
the past few weeks, a lot of them have been saying, not only saying, but truly believe that they can make a deep run in this Big 12 tournament. How are you reacting to sort of that confidence and trying to coach them through that?
Yeah, I'm glad they feel that way. They should feel that way. Of course, like it's still the same thing. Like, you got to play the first game. Like this thing has to be one game at a time. Play your best game, and then if that's not good enough, then we'll come back in here, regroup, and find another way to do it. But just locking in on playing UCF baseball in game one against doesn't matter who, doesn't matter where, just play our style of baseball, give yourself the best chance to win, and see if we can make the plays at the right time.
How much of an adjustment is it to play at a Major League Baseball ballpark? You mentioned that every player's dream is to play at a Major League ballpark, and this is one of the best that's hosted the World Series. And I'm curious, does this also is a nice pitch to use from a recruiting standpoint where your recruits are watching you and know that every year that you're in the Big 12 tournament, you're going to play at a big league park?
Yeah, that kind of stadium, one. Two, it's climate controlled. Like, so we know for the most part what time games will start. We don't have to worry about the lightning. It's 1,000 degrees outside right now, and nobody's worried about it. Nobody's checking weather reports. Like, you can't get any better than that for a conference tournament. I've sat in conference tournaments where you play games at 2 a.m. Like that's when we talk about student athlete experience, that's probably not one of them that they would want. But to play in this place and this type of environment against the type of teams that we get to play on a weekly basis in this league, like this is elite college baseball at an elite venue. They couldn't get better than this. And I think the adjusting to the stadium, obviously the dirt to turf to dirt is different than anything we played on, and then anybody else has played on in college baseball.
What do you think of the
Anytime you go to a big league park, I think the biggest issue is the fly ball and judging it through the second and third deck, which none of these guys have done. Usually you're trying to deal with one set and it gets above something and you can find it. I mean, there's a lot of seats in here. I seriously doubt most of them are going to be filled, especially in the second deck. So just getting used to the surroundings, dealing with the second deck, finding the fly balls, dealing with a roof that looks like it's 1,000 feet up in the air. All things we try to get used to today.
What do you think of the format of this tournament? The double elimination, then it speeds up there towards the end.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. You got some of those teams that got the first and second seed deserve the break at the beginning. We got to play our way through, and then once you get to the end, like talking about student athlete experience, right? And hopefully those teams at the end are playing next weekend. There's no reason to play those 4 games on the last 2 days of the year when you're trying to get ready, hopefully for the next Friday or could be Thursday.
Coach Dom Stagolane was named Big 12 All-Second Team today, or second team All Big 12. What was he like this season? What did he do to really kind of step up his game?
We were kind of going over who was returning and where we thought the biggest strides could be made. And we sat down and talked about the use of the changeup, expanding the breaking ball repertoire, getting him a little more physical, putting him in the right situations. And to talk about that in July and then see a kid from August to now put it out there on the field on display and get rewarded for it. Like that's one for him, great. Two for Coach Thomas and the pitching development part of it. Like there's a roadmap to it if guys would buy in, and that's great for him, great for the program, great for the development of what we're trying to do with our pitchers. And he honestly, we talked about it the other day, I think he's just now starting to scratch the surface of how good he really can be.
Coach, you also had 5 players get named all Big 12 honorable mention, players like Castellano, Kramer, Prives. What is it about those guys, that the performance this season, that earned them this recognition from the conference?
And those have been consistent performers for us since the beginning. Like Kyle Kramer, I know he's taken the ball 30 times whenever we ask. Castellano started, closed, thrown in the middle, thrown at the beginning, thrown at the end. Like he's done everything we asked. Matt's been great, been better than advertised in the outfield, and we always knew he could hit, but he's turned himself into a plus defender in left field. Danny Neary coming in January, kind of helping our pitchers and doing the things that he did. To get recognized like that because they played well in the league. Like that's, you can talk about the whole year, but those guys got recognized because they were contributors in the league, in league games when it mattered the most, and they got rewarded for it.
What's Andrew Sundin's status going into this tournament?
Yeah, we're just trying to pick the right spots to use him. Obviously, like he was still working through some stuff, and we try to give him a break. And then Matt Cedarberg's having another Matt Cedarberg May. He's been hot as fire, and you got to kind of, there's one spot for one guy to go out there and just hit. And right now, Seed's that guy, and we're trying to get Sonny back locked in, and he'll be used at some point during this tournament off the bench or at DH. And he looked really good today. He looked more like himself today. So hopefully we'll get a chance to use him here soon.
As referenced before, obviously a lot of pitchers were recognized in for the Big 12. Do you think that your pitchers, starting and bullpen, their versatility can be one of your biggest edges in this tournament?
Yeah, I think so, because we have some unselfish guys that don't really care when they get the ball. They just want to help the team and find a way to win games. And that's huge down the stretch because there's some of these games that are going to be messy, and you got to figure out who you're going to use, when you're going to use them. And all of our guys have been used in different situations. I think they're prepared for that. And they're for it. And we got a bunch of guys that they don't really care. They just want the ball in the biggest moments and want a chance to help us win.
Coach, I know the focus is obviously on Tuesday in game 1, but for day 2, would Vespi be able to pitch on shorter rest, or is that just kind of like a TBD decision to see what happens tomorrow and then decide?
Yeah, that would be TBD. I think he can. We'll just kind of see what the matchup is and how he feels. But if I had to guess, if I ask him, he's going to tell me he feels fine. So we'll just kind of see where that is. We do some testing here. Kaylee Shore's our trainer, and Coach Thomas, they do some testing just to see where the strength levels are and if it's normal, so that there's not a lot of lying when it comes to that part. Like the arm tells you what it needs to tell you. But he's thrown on shorter rest before. He's very diligent in his prep work, post, and all that stuff, and getting himself ready to play. And I mean, he's a senior that wants another shot to pitch, so I would assume he would be okay.
Coach, what is the difference between the team you saw in the season opener versus the team you see right now going into their first Big 12 tournament?
Well, I think it's been battle tested, right? Like we were just learning some of the stuff we wanted to do, and they were just trying to figure out where they fit in the whole thing. I think they understand what they need to do, where they fit in the whole encompassing part of the team and how we win. And they've been through some battles. We've been to some tough places with some tough travel, and won some really, really tough games, lost some tough games, got our tails whipped at time and had to respond. There's really not much they haven't already seen. So to me, they're battle tested and ready to make a run.
You just mentioned tough travel. What's it like being on the road as long now as you have been?
Yeah, it's tough, right? They've been gone for a while. And with second Courtyard in as many weeks, Courtyard Marriott. But just dealing with that, like we got to lift in somebody else's weight room. You're sleeping in hotel beds. Some of our guys have already started summer school, so our guys were on the computer doing school last night. But at the same point, like they just wanted the chance to be in this tournament, make a run. I think they're excited to play. And I mean, they're 18 and 22-year-olds. It's not like me and you, Trace, trying to deal with these bets. They'll be fine.
You'd like to be there long enough to get your mail forwarded to Texas, right?
100%. I don't. If we could stay on the road for another 3 weeks, I'd be happy.
Coach, what's the key to having a successful tournament? What's going to be the key 1 or 2 things that you have to do to have a successful run?
Well, I mean, you don't have to win the first. Or we got to win the first. You don't have to win the first game, but it sure as heck helps. It's just being able to play the type of baseball we need to play. Like, can we pitch and defend at a high level? If we do that, we got a shot. If we can execute on offense and be timely on offense, we're going to have a shot. And if all those things happen at once, like we can play with anybody in the country. You guys have seen it. We can play with anybody when we do those things and play to the level of our capabilities.
this league is projected by many to have 7 to 8 bids, depending on how things go in the week. You've coached in some of the best leagues, including the ACC. Describe the Big 12 and why it's so deep and talented.
Well, I think just you got really good baseball programs and programs that have really good baseball resources. Recruiting, like we went to Baylor in those facilities, and that's a good team. Like that was a really good team that we played that's not even in our tournament. So those guys that we're playing somebody like that every single weekend. The pitching from top to bottom, not only the starting pitcher, but the relievers, the physicality of the lineups. There's some real, like, just go through the draft boards. Like you're going through teams where there's first round picks every weekend. If not first round pick, first 2-day picks on every team. And that's something that you got to prepare for. To me, it feels no different than the ACC as far as the quality of team from top to bottom. The travel's obviously a little more spread out in certain parts, but I mean, I coached in the ACC when we were in South Bend, so there's really not much. Might as well have been in Canada. So couldn't be as bad as that.
How wide open do you consider this tournament?
Say that one more time. Sorry, James jumping in.
How wide open do you consider this tournament? Anybody
Well,
can win it?
Yeah, I think so. Just look at the league. Like you went into the last day of the league trying to figure out 6 spots. Like there's a lot of us that are bunched up and with talented teams, well-coached teams that on any given day can beat anybody. And these things are crazy anyway. Whether it's balanced or not, these conference tournaments get crazy and nuts, and things happen. And you got some kids fighting to play the last game of their career. So crazy stuff can happen.